Welcome again, everybody. I'm so glad you joined us for this month's webinar. It's called "The World at Your Fingertips: Essential Tech for Travelers Who Are Blind or Visually Impaired." So today's webinar is going to last about an hour, and there's several points where we're going to give you uh, a chance to ask questions or comments. But just some housekeeping so all this can be as smooth as possible. We're expecting a large turnout today, so everybody's going to be muted until the question and answer sections. So if you have a question or comment, please raise your virtual hand at any time, and this will actually make it easy for our moderator to see you at the top of the list, and then she can call on you when the time comes. Also, when you're called on, you also must be sure to unmute yourself before speaking, and we'll remind you of that again. So our moderator today is the fabulous Elena. Couldn't do it without her. She's going to be reading any info or anything you guys type in the chat, and also helping to, kind of facilitate things and answer questions. So to raise your hand, this is some good info. To raise your hand, press Alt Y when you're in the Zoom window. And to lower your hand when you're finished, just press Alt Y again. If you've dialed in by phone, press *9 to raise your hand and *9 to lower your hand. So, this webinar today is brought to you by the Lighthouse for the Blind Incorporated. Our organization is headquartered in Seattle and has manufacturing facilities in Seattle, Washington, Spokane, Washington, and Somerville, South Carolina. So, we're on the West Coast and far over on the East Coast, where at all three of those locations, we make aerospace parts and products for the U.S. government. We also own and operate Ability One base supply centers located on military bases up and down the West Coast. And finally, we provide contract closeout services for the military at our locations in California, Alabama, and Virginia. So we got a number of different locations and we do a few different things. Our mission is to empower people who are blind, deaf-blind, or blind with other disabilities by creating diverse, sustainable, and meaningful employment opportunities. And we're currently hiring too. So please, if you or somebody that you know is blind, please scope out our open positions at lhblind.org/jobs to see if there's a job for you or somebody that you know. And Elena will put that link in the chat, lhblind.org/jobs. So the webinar today is one of some exciting things, some new ventures that we're making as part of some community-based programs and services that we're starting and that will be starting in the next few years. We are so excited to be almost halfway through year two of these webinars and some of the community outreach stuff that we're doing. We're pretty excited about where this is going, and we just want to thank you, our participants, for your support and for spreading the word about what we do. We're so glad that you find this as a valuable service. So stay tuned and feel free to reach out to us with questions, and please continue to share any of this info with people you think might benefit. And just so you know, you can always email us at questions@lhblind.org. One final note here before we get to our content is that tomorrow you're going to receive an informational email with detailed notes and relevant links about everything that we cover today in the webinar. I really try to make those emails pretty valuable for people. So it's not just a form email that says thanks for coming. It has a whole bunch of good info in it. So that email is a great resource. There's also a link to a survey that we would also really appreciate you guys completing. What you tell us matters, and we've already implemented several of the suggestions that people have made in previous surveys. So if you're on a PC, when you close this webinar, a web page is going to pop up right away, and that'll prompt you to take the survey. Or when you receive the email in 24 hours, that's another way of taking the survey. So I've been talking a whole bunch. I think I said my first name once in our pre-show, but I'm going to introduce myself now. My name is Tim Paulding, and manage our computer training programs and our Braille literacy programs for both hearing blind and our deaf-blind employees at all of our Lighthouse locations. I'm located at our Spokane, Washington location, and I also get to teach face-to-face, do one-on-one orientation and mobility training there too. I've been in the blindness rehabilitation field for about 15 years. 10 of those have been at the Lighthouse, and I've taught both assistive technology and orientation and mobility for most of that time. So what I do is teach people how to do orientation and mobility, how to get around, to travel with a cane, cross streets, find addresses, different places, take public transit. But I also am really into technology and teach lots of people how to use assistive technology. And it just makes sense that orientation and mobility and AT go together because they really do. There is so much now just on our smartphones that can help with wayfinding and all kinds of other things. And I also happen to be blind. That's another piece of it too. So I'm a blind mobility instructor, AT specialist, and just happy to be here with you. So today we're going to be looking at several apps that assist people who are blind or visually impaired in traveling independently. So specifically, we're going to be using two apps that use GPS to provide turn-by-turn directions. So as you're walking, they are going to tell you which way to go as as you're moving along the route. Turn-by-turn directions. One of those is specifically designed for blind people, and the other one is a mainstream app that actually works very well with VoiceOver on the iPhone. Primarily, here at the webinars that we do, we use a lot of iOS devices, and that's what we'll be using today. iOS apps, iOS devices. So if you have an iPad, an iPhone, we don't teach much on Macs or anything like that, but iPads and iPhones is just there's just tons that are available. So also we're going to look at another couple of apps that also use GPS but don't provide turn-by-turn directions. But I think you'll find that they do some pretty useful things that maybe the turn-by-turn ones don't. And then we're going to be looking at an app that helps plan transit routes, which I just discovered. It's been around for years, and I just discovered it a little while ago, and I love it. So the first app that we're going to look at is an app that's specifically designed for people who are blind or visually impaired as a GPS turn by turn. Uh, it provides GPS turn by turn directions. And if any of you remember previous iterations of this app, uh, there were some, and it's changed hands a couple of times. But this one is called Good Maps Outdoors. So not to confuse it with the other Good Maps app that actually um, blanking on the name of that one, but it's that one actually helps provide turn-by-turn directions or wayfinding inside using a certain kind of system. This one provides outdoor turn-by-turn GPS information. So we're gonna actually watch a video on this. It's me outside. I'm trying to do a route and kind of doing some instruction on the app. So let's have a look at this. All right, everybody, brief demonstration video here of a Jeep. Hmm. All right, everybody, brief demonstration video here of a. Uh-oh.
Sorry, everybody. Let me just reload this video. It seems to not want to load. 1 second.
We're probably going to hear me say, "All right, everybody," again. Yeah, it was fun shooting this video. Walking around with my cane in my neighborhood with headphones on. All right, everybody, brief demonstration video here of a GPS app that gives turn-by-turn directions specifically designed for people who are blind called Good Maps Outdoors. We're going to just go over a couple of things, location information, and then we're going to find a point of interest and get turn-by-turn directions to that point of interest. So along the bottom of the screen are a few tabs, pretty typical for iOS apps, and we're going to go to the
Routes tab.
location tab, and I'm just using standard iOS gesture commands.
Selected. Location. Tab.
Okay, double tap on
Selected.
location.
Location. Tab.
And now we can review the screen with iOS gestures for it to give us info about where we
Location.
are.
Heading.
So I went to
Heading.
the top of the screen, and now I'm just swiping to the right.
Launch IRA. Button.
Gives us a launch IRA option.
Look around wand. Off. But near 1315 N Woodruff Road.
Okay.
Spokane Valley. WA
That's the address
99206.
that we're
USA.
near.
Direction west.
And I'm starting to move. Always helps with GPS apps if you are actually moving. We are headed west.
Intersection ahead. 616 feet. East Boone Avenue left and right.
East Boone Avenue left and right.
More info. Button. Routes tab. More info. Intersection ahead. 624 feet. East Boone Avenue left and right.
Okay, so we're moving.
Direction west.
Facing west. And let's actually stop and plan a route. And we're going to go to the Routes tab.
Routes tab.
And there's
Back
all
button.
kinds of different ways to create a route. So let's check that
Create
out. I'm
route 2.
just
Heading.
swiping
Heading.
to the right.
Look around wand. Off. But home. Button. Points of interest. Button. Street address. Button.
Okay, enter a street address. Search for a point of interest.
Contact address. Button.
An address from your
Waypoint.
contacts. You can create waypoints. Just tons of stuff
History.
you can do with
Button.
this app.
Selected. Routes.
All right, so I'm going to go up
Street
to
address.
point of interest.
Points of interest. Button.
Let's look.
Search here. Search field is editing. Search
We
here.
can search for
Insertion point
one.
at start.
I'm actually going to go to their categories and see what we can find.
User PO. Free IR access points. Food. Lodging.
Let's do
Food.
food.
In progress. Jimmy John's. 1330 N Argonne Road Staff.
Jimmy John's
Spokane.
again.
Deli and Pizza Express. Substop.
And-
Casa de Oro. 1000.
Let's do this Mexican restaurant
Casa de
that's
Oro.
close to here.
1611 N Mullen Road.
I'm just
Spokane
gonna
Valley.
double tap.
0.5 miles west. Button. Casa de Oro. Back button.
Notice it said 0.5 miles west. It gave some information. Let's swipe.
Create route 2. Heading. Look around wand. Off. Casa de Oro.
Yeah, creating route to Casa de Oro.
1611 N Mullen Road.
There's the address.
Spokane Valley. WA. 99,200. United States. 509921.
Even gives a phone number.
Distance. 0.5 miles.
About half a mile
View
away.
menu. Button.
Oh, we can look at the menu too. That's cool.
Pedestrian. Button.
So we
Vehicle.
have the
Button.
option here of creating a pedestrian route, or if you are in a car and you're the one using the GPS, you can do a vehicle route too.
Getting warmer. Button.
And getting warmer is kind of similar to what Blind Square does, is it gives you updated information as you're moving towards the point of interest, kind of on a clock face and a distance type thing.
Bicycle. Button. Uber. Button. Call. Button.
And Uber will probably launch just the third-party Uber app.
Routes tab.
But
Call.
let's
Bicycle.
do
Getting vehicle.
pedestrian.
Pedestrian. Button.
Double tap.
Pedestrian. Turn right on Sunderland Court in 137 feet.
All right, and we got the route pulled up.
0.6 miles to destination. Estimated time 11 minutes. Facing direction is west. Proceed straight. Start going west on East Sinto Avenue toward Sunderland Court. In 137 feet. Turn right on Sunderland Court.
Okay, gave me a whole bunch of information. In 100 and some feet, I need to turn right on Sunderland Court. As I'm moving, it will self-voice and announce what I need to do, but I can also drag my finger around the screen or swipe around to see.
Turn right on Sunderland Court.
Yep, coming up on Sunderland Court.
Heading west.
Heading west. And this is Sunderland Court here.
Look around wand. Off. Turn right on Heading northwest.
Yep, turning right.
Route details. Button. Cancel. Button. Route details. Turn right on Sunderland Court in 14 feet.
Okay, yep, 14 feet. I did actually turn west, and GPS is kind of catching up a little
Heading
bit.
north.
Now I'm heading north. What's my next step here?
Look around wand. Turn right on Sunderland Court in 75 feet.
Here we are.
Route details. Button. Turn right on Sunderland Court in 106 feet.
So Sunderland Court kind of winds around here. I'm going to stop here.
On Sunderland Court, in 221 feet. Sunderland Court turns slightly left and becomes E. Maxwell Avenue.
Aha, good info. Okay, that's exactly what it does. I know this neighborhood. But let's stop.
Route details. Button.
And I'm going to pull up this list, and it actually gives us turn
Approaching
by
left turn on
turn.
Sunderland Court in 186 feet.
Yep, approaching a left turn.
1. Start going west on East Sinto Avenue toward Sunderland Court.
But here's a list of the step-by-step directions on how to get there.
2. After 148 feet, turn Turn right on Sunderland Court.
I did that already.
3. After 351 feet, Sunderland Court turns slightly left and becomes E. Maxwell Avenue.
And that's kind of the point where we're at now.
4. After 177 feet, turn right on Enfar Road.
Yep, wants me to turn right on Far.
5. After 331 feet, turn left on E. Mission Avenue.
Left on Mission, so cool. But let's keep
Back
walking.
button.
And
Back button. Route to Casa de Oro, 1611 N. Mullen Road on right.
yep, so we're walking here.
Recalculate route. Button. Cancel. Button. Route details. Button. Sunderland Court turns slightly left and becomes E. Maxwell Avenue in 138 feet.
And that's where we're at now. Turn slightly left and becomes East Maxwell. I'm just swiping a little bit to get updated
Sunderland Court turns slightly left and becomes E. Maxwell Avenue.
Uh-huh.
Sunderland Court turns slightly left and becomes E. Maxwell Avenue in 61 feet.
Oh, 61 feet, so we're coming up on it. I'm moving pretty quick, so the GPS should be...
Heading northwest.
There we go. Comes a car, staying off the road.
Look around one. Off. Turn right on Enfar Road in 137 feet.
And now what do we got?
Look around one. Off. Turn right on Enfar Road. Approaching a right turn on Enfar Road in 106 feet.
Okay, cool. So I made that turn. That's a dog. I'm turning around. And so that just kind of gives you some information and an idea of what it looks like to plan a route using this app. Thanks, everybody. Yes, that's a dog. I'm turning around. That yeah. So the streets in my neighborhood are kind of odd. They sort of there's a couple of them that kind of circle around and then intersect with streets that are a grid. So it's a little odd, but just the configuration, it's not a straight grid. But I really feel like Good Maps did a good job of what I really like about Good Maps is that it really gave specific information. So I don't know if you guys heard, I can't remember exactly what it said, but in about 160 feet, Sunderland Court curves around to the left and turns into Maxwell Avenue. That is the kind of information that you're not going to get from a mainstream app like Google Maps or Apple Maps. That type of specific information that is super useful. Of course, it's useful to anybody, but it's even more useful to people who are blind or visually impaired. Another thing that I really liked about Good Maps were the multiple different ways I could create a route. And a lot of apps will do this, but this one really I feel like laid it out. I could put in an address. I could search for a point of interest. I could also use the look around wand. Do you guys remember that? I don't think I demonstrated that at all, but that was if you activated that feature in Good Maps, you could point your phone, and I'm pointing my phone right now just to provide a description on the camera, sort of pointing your phone with the screen up, pointed towards the sky. You're pointing your phone around, and as you're pointing it, it tells you what's in that direction. Blind Square does a little something like that too, and I'm sure a few other apps do. But this one, I really feel like had it all, has it all. So, and the name of what this app used to be, Seeing Eye GPS. I don't know if anybody remembers that app. That was several years ago, maybe 8 years ago. Seeing Eye and Sendero got together. Sendero Group did the mobile geo and a lot of other stuff. Seeing Eye and Sendero got together and made this really cool app. Well, I think it's been purchased a time or two, but now it's owned by Good Maps, and they've actually done a really good job keeping it up. One of the things that I didn't like as much about Good Maps is that I don't think it has a self-voicing feature. And by that, I mean you have to use VoiceOver to read the instructions. I think I'm remembering that. So if you weren't focused on this main chunk of the screen as you were walking, it wouldn't always tell you right away. So let's look at a mainstream app now that does the same kind of thing. This is actually Apple Maps. It's built into your phone. one of the things I chose to use Apple Maps instead of Google Maps. One of the reasons I did that is because I feel like it works better with Siri. So to create a route, a pedestrian route using Apple Maps, you say something really specific to Siri, and that is create, give me, sorry, what I said was give me walking directions to XYZ point of interest. Give me walking directions to Starbucks near me. What I really like about Apple Maps is that it pulls up that route and pulls up that screen ready to go right away. So that's pretty cool. So let's check out. This is a pretty short video on Apple Maps. Let's have a look at that. All right, everyone, we are using Apple Maps for some pedestrian directions. I basically asked Siri, please give me walking directions to Starbucks near me. It found one and it pulled up this screen rather quickly. I only have one route to choose from.
Go. But 16 minutes. 0.8 miles.
About
Mostly
16
flat.
minutes, a little less than a mile, and I double tap on the go button.
Go.
Starting
As
walking
we start
directions.
walking,
My location. 1221 N Woodruff. You are moving away from N Woodruff Road.
so we should hear the Siri voice.
In 250 feet, take a right on East Boone Avenue.
And we should also hear the voiceover voice once in a while updating. So my next turn is going to be just a little under a couple hundred feet, turning right on Boone Avenue. As we do that, let's listen to what it says.
My location. 1221 N Woodruff Road. N Woodruff
Take a
Road.
right on
Spokane
East
Valley.
Boone Avenue, then continue straight for half a mile.
Okay, take a right on East Boone, then continue straight for half a mile. Let's see how accurate this. Okay, all right. Here's the turn right here.
In half a mile, take a left on North Mullen Road.
Okay, it's going to take me a long time to walk down here for a half a mile, but that kind of gives you an idea of the accuracy of Apple Maps and how helpful that can be. Let's swipe around on this screen and kind of see if there's some more information we can gather.
Map. N Woodruff Road. North-south. My location. 9841 to 9899 E Boone Ave. E Boone Ave. Spokane Valley.
So this is actually at the very top of the map throughout the whole session is your location, which is actually very accurate.
Map. N MacArthur Road. North-south.
And as I'm swiping, I'm moving through the different streets near me.
E Boone Avenue. East-west.
And that's the Boone that that's the street that I'm on. Swiping to the right.
E Sharp Lane. East-west. Arrival. 11:44.
And continues to update like when I'm going to get there. I basically stopped, so it's updating my my arrival time. I'm swiping, and we're just kind of looking at the streets around us.
14 minutes. 0.7 miles.
0.7 miles, 14 minutes away.
Expand button. Expand button.
And that just gives us a control to expand some of these options and selections. So there's Apple Maps for you. Pretty brief, but what I really liked about Apple Maps is that I can quickly use it with Siri, and points of interest, I can dictate all of that stuff. So I can say to Apple Maps, give me walking directions to the nearest gas station. Give me walking directions to a restaurant near me. And Siri, as many of you, I'm sure have used Siri before, it'll give you a list and say, the nearest blah 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 to you is such and such. Would you like that one? You say yes. So it's very user friendly in creating these routes. There's not a lot of screens you have to go through. It's not a lot of extra steps you have to take to create this route. Once it pulled the route up on the screen, actually when I was doing a previous video, and that one didn't take for some reason when I was creating it, but I created the route to somewhere else, and it actually gave me 3 different options, 3 different routes to take, which I really liked. So if there's more than one route, you can actually go through those options and preview that route. And since I know the streets around here, I probably would have done that. And then another thing that I really like about Apple Maps, and just comparing to Good Maps. So Good Maps, so Apple has a lot more resources behind what they do, right? Than a small company that creates apps for people who are blind or visually impaired. So I really felt like Apple Maps was faster in updating my location. So when we heard Apple Maps say, in 65 feet, turn right on West Boone Avenue, I mean, it was super accurate. I took like, I don't know, 20 more steps and there the street was. 10 more steps, like 65 feet. It was pretty darn accurate. Good Maps, I didn't feel was quite as as accurate. I didn't feel like it quite was giving me updated information. It was still really, really good, but Apple Maps was faster. But dude, there's stuff that that Good Maps does that Apple Maps does not do. Um, Especially those super specific street configuration type information. Apple Maps does not do that. It's a lot of it is visual on the screen for somebody who's sighted. Um, Another piece that Apple introduced a number of years ago, but is pretty cool. It can be kind of overwhelming for people. At least it was for me when I started. Was when I was swiping through, I could use standard iOS gesture commands to swipe through and hear the streets around me. So I was on West Boone Avenue and it said east west. It's absolutely an east west street. And as I swiped, it told me the next east-west street to my north. So we're getting a little into O&M mobility land when we're talking about cardinal directions. Sometimes that scares people. But as I swiped, it would tell me the next streets around me so it could help me build a mental map of what was, the streets that were around me, which I find super helpful. So enough talking from me. So that was Good Maps Outdoors and Apple Maps. I'd like to open it up for any questions or comments you guys might have uh, related to what we just covered. Anybody have?
All right. So looks like we have a few questions here.
Great.
I do want to get to the one that we had in the chat first.
Okay.
Who from Tracy asking, what about Android?
Yes. So Android's definitely got some options. Um, I'm trying to think about, I think Lazarillo is available for Android. If you could email me questions at lhblind.org, we do a ton of instruction and stuff like that on iOS apps because there's just so much available. But yeah, Androids are accessible in a lot of ways with TalkBack and with different stuff. But I don't know of a ton of them off the top of my head. Google Maps, I'm sure, would be accessible on an Android phone for sure. So I'd scope that out, and Lazarillo, scope that out too. But shoot me an email at questions@lhblind.org, and I can drum up a list for you. Sorry, I can't be too much more helpful with that one.
All right. And then we're going to move to some other questions. Frank, you are up. If you could also unmute yourself.
Hi, hi, can you hear me?
Hi, Frank. Yeah.
Hey, beautiful presentation here. On the Apple Maps, if you go off route, how does it let you know?
It says something like recalculating route. I'm trying to remember exactly what it says, but it will, just like if you've heard in a car, it will reroute you. So if you missed your street, it'll say turn left, and it'll kind of reroute you back around the block.
Oh, okay. Because I mean, lately I haven't gotten an audio voice from them to recalculate, but I did get sounds, different sounds that, it beeped faster or it did, but it didn't audibilize the thing. So I didn't know if they changed it or.
Yeah, I've noticed they've added some new sounds to Apple Maps. When I did that video, it sounded like it beeped when I was getting further away, but I didn't hear
Right.
I didn't hear a ton of that, and I actually didn't. Yeah, I haven't heard much more about that. Have you?
Well,
Like
that's
what
with
those
the
sounds
voice
are all
thing.
about? Yeah.
Yeah, with the voice went away, and then I started getting these sounds. Then, but I just didn't quite know what it was trying to tell me. I don't know if it gets faster or slower as you get further away from the route, or did it already recalculate? And so yeah, I don't know.
So one setting you might check into, there is a setting within Apple Maps that says the type of guidance.
Right,
Have you
I
messed with
have that
that?
on.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, yeah, yep.
Huh.
Well, check it out though. But I mean, maybe it's just my phone, but you know, but yeah, it used to tell me, okay, I'd walk in the wrong direction, and it would say, "Turn around, you're off,"
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah.
then now it doesn't do it. So
Interesting. Yeah, you should try it again, maybe in a different environment or
right,
yeah.
right. All right.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
thank you, man.
thanks for your question.
All
Yep.
right. Thank you, Frank. And then we are going to move on to Sherry. You are unmuted if you would like to unmute yourself.
Hi.
Hi there, Sherry.
Hi. I was wondering what you recommended for somebody that lives out in the country where I don't have sidewalks.
Yeah, out in the country. So like a type of app?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, it depends on what you want to do and sort of where you want to go.
Mhm.
And how safe it is for you to be walking without sidewalks. I mean, there's lots of streets that are plenty safe. There's no sidewalks in my neighborhood, but these are residential streets. Um, but I really think Good Maps is a great place to start because you can get turn by turn directions, and
Mhm.
it really walks you through how to find nearby points of interest.
Okay.
I feel like it has a nice database um, that does that can show you what's closest to you. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I think Good Maps is a good one for turn by turn. We're gonna the next segment we get into is a couple of apps that don't give turn by turn directions, but give lots of rich information about what's around you. So we'll be looking at a couple of those too. So maybe by the end you can decide.
Okay.
You have a better idea.
All right. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, Sherry.
All right. Thank you, Sherry. And then we will move on to our next question from David. You are unmuted if you could also unmute yourself.
Hey, Tim. Oops.
Hi.
Sorry, wrong button. Um, I was going to say the great presentation so far.
Oh, thanks.
The Apple Maps I really like because it'll even tell you about side roads, trails, things like that. Like we got a park right near our house, and it will take you the directions if you want to walk through the park. And of course, if you keep walking on the sidewalk outside of the park, it'll tell you that too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, thanks for that info. Do you have any more info on the beeping from Apple Maps?
No, it just likes to do that when you walk away from when you walk away from the route or when it thinks you're walking away from the route.
Okay, when you're off track, it provides
Yeah,
this kind of new audio feedback. I just noticed that the other day.
but
Interesting.
the what was I going to say? Hold on one second. I use it to calculate estimated times as well as give directions. So it's a very helpful. Apple Maps is probably my favorite on an iPhone for
Yes.
turn by turn.
Okay, awesome. Good info.
All right. Thank you, David. And we have one more question from Dawn. You are
Okay.
unmuted if you could also unmute yourself.
Now unmuted. Zoom webinar. Yes, I have an iPhone, and when I look on my main screen, it says Maps. How do I know that's Apple Maps?
That's it. That's the one.
That's it.
Yep.
Okay.
Apple is so cool. They don't need to put an apple in front of it.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Don.
Yeah,
And I
Don.
think that's all for now.
All right, everybody. Well, cool. Great questions. Great feedback. Feel like we had a good little discussion about that. So the next couple of apps that we're going to look at are GPS apps that are specifically designed for people who are blind. So these were created for with blind and visually impaired people in mind, but they don't give turn-by-turn directions. But what they do is give you tons of rich information about what's around you. The first one we're going to look at is called Voice Vista. So everybody, I don't know if everybody does, but many of you may remember Soundscape. And a couple of years ago, or was it last year? Oh my gosh. I mean, it was recently. It was recently that Microsoft made an announcement that they discontinued this awesome app called Soundscape. And everybody in the blindness community was super upset about it. What's going to happen to it? I mean, I used Soundscape all the time with my students and even with me, like when I was teaching to make sure that we were on the right track or to get information about what was around. Like I used it as a tool for teaching too. But what Microsoft did was they made the source code for Soundscape available to anyone who wanted to take that and create a new app with it. And that's exactly what happened. So Microsoft, get all the money that they dumped into Soundscape, they donated that basically back to the community as source code. So a couple of different outfits, a couple of different companies or volunteers have picked up that source code and created some apps based on it. And at least the two big ones that I know of right now are Voice Vista and Soundscape by Scottish Tech Army. So I looked at both of them. They're very, very similar to the original Soundscape, but I feel like the developers of Voice Vista have changed some things and actually improved the layout of the app. And they've added some more options to the app. And I like the way the app is structured now with tabs along the bottom. A lot of the features and functionality is pretty much the same, with maybe a couple of things that were different. I don't think that the original Soundscape had the ability to do wayfind, like dropping breadcrumb wayfinding routes, although they may have created that towards the end. But let's look at Voice Vista. All right, everybody, today we're going to use Voice Vista. As we're walking, Voice Vista does a really great job of getting information in your ears in a way that's directional, so you can hear sort of where it's coming from. Recommended to use bone conducting headphones or some sort of headphones that allow you to also hear the outside environment too. So as we're walking, it's going to announce streets and different points of interest around me. I'm actually going to get that started manually by finding a button on the home screen of Voice Vista to tell me my location and what's around
Screen
me.
dim. Tab bar. Selected. Surroundings. Tab.
So I'm
1 of
just
4.
using regular voiceover commands to swipe and double tap.
Repeat.
And I'm
Repeat last call out.
swiping here to the left.
What's my location? Sleep. What's my
Let's
location?
say, what's
Button.
my location?
Beacon. 650 feet ahead. Facing north along North Woodruff Road. Next intersection. East Sinto Avenue. 1221 North Woodruff Road.
Okay, so it said next intersection.
Beacon. 605 feet ahead.
And it told me about a beacon that's coming up, and that's actually a beacon that I set on my front door so I could find my way back, which is really cool. Let's try to get it to give us some more information about what's around us.
What's around me? What's around me? Button. Ness Elementary School. 0.2 miles behind to the left. Bulldog Taxi Service. Taxi service. 0.27 miles ahead to the right. Mission Ad Locust Bus Stop. 0.29 miles ahead to the left. Marker. Home. 505 feet ahead. Beacon. 485 feet ahead to the right.
Excellent. Good information there. So it's giving us information about our surroundings in a way that we can hear where those surroundings are in relation to us. Now I'm going to actually have it start making a noise when I'm pointed in the right direction to find a marker or a beacon that I've set.
Mute all. Stop beacon. Button. Unmute beacon. Button. Navigate. Unmute beacon. Button.
So I've actually already started that beacon that's at my house.
Unmute beacon. Mute beacon. Button.
What I'm doing is rotating in a circle and pointing my phone until it starts making. All right, there's the beacon, and I'm pointed in the right direction. So as I walk,
accuracy 16 feet, facing north, speed
if I
3 miles per hour.
If I keep my body pointed,
1315 North Woodruff Road. Beacon 370 feet ahead.
I'm getting closer.
Screen dimmed. Beacon 310 feet ahead to the left.
And I'm getting closer. So that just kind of gives you a brief idea of what Voice Vista can do as far as telling us what's around us. And wow, I was excited during that video. I think I was really talking rather fast because I was finding that some of these videos were getting cut off at like 3 minutes. And just some information for you guys. So I'm having to use a dongle with my iPhone 15 that converts USB-C to a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. And anytime that dongle would kind of be bumped, the screen recording shut off. So I figured that out. But man, I was trying to cram a lot of info into that video. So Voice Vista is awesome. I showed you a few different things with that. One thing I really forgot to mention was just one of the amazing things that Soundscape was really founded on, which was giving information in 3D stereo sound. That's a huge feature of Voice Vista and the other Soundscape app by Scottish Tech Army. But Voice Vista is the one that we looked at today. So that actually, you can put on headphones, and as it was announcing those beacons, and those other things around me, like the streets, and it said Ness Elementary School is 0.2 miles behind and to the left. When it spoke those out, it would sound like in your headphones, if you're wearing headphones, it would sound like the direction where you needed to go. So really pretty cool. Recommendations with that is wearing these things called bone conducting headphones, which don't cover your ears. They actually sit on your, like, right beside your ears, on the bones of your face, and that's how they conduct the sound, which is really interesting. But it works great. Or I know that some of the new iPod Pros like allow you to hear sounds while you're also listening. Something that many of you may be better at if you practice, but what I found was that as a totally blind traveler, I couldn't focus on the information in my ears and the directionality in my ears and the environmental sounds around me that I rely on all the time. I couldn't focus on both of those. The good news is this stereo directional sound feature is not necessary to make use of the lots of amazing features in this app. So primarily, I'll just give you some info. Primarily, that's what I use the app for. What I use the app for is information about what's around me, streets. It has a really great database of bus stops. Then as you're walking, it will call out points of interest that it has in its database that it recognizes. So there is a Starbucks about half a mile from my house, and there's a few other things. So as I'm walking, it will call those things out, and it'll say, Starbucks 275 feet straight ahead, for example. So you don't have to have those 3D headphones to really make a ton of use out of this app. There were lots of features of this app that I didn't show you. One of which was you can create your own beacons, like I created for my front door. I have several beacons for different places. I am a mobility instructor and have great O&M skills, but when I have to walk along a really, really long block in my neighborhood that's like maybe 4 city blocks long, I lose track of counting driveways, and sometimes there's not a lot of um, really good landmarks around. So I just open the GPS app and pull out one of those beacons, and it's super accurate. Another thing that Voice Vista does, it is allows you to create your own route, which is really cool. So you can put it in breadcrumb mode and create, say maybe you were walking with your spouse or with a friend, and you guys walk this route. You can create your own route, save it, and then the next time it'll walk you through the route using beacons. So pretty cool. Just really awesome app. um, I actually think we are going to skip Blind Square. That's a really pretty long video, and we've kind of gone over Blind Square before. Voice Vista is pretty awesome, and I think it covers a lot. So does anybody have any questions about Voice Vista? I really want to get to teaching or showing you guys about Move It.
All
Any
right.
questions? Yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot of questions.
Okay.
In the chat, John asked, I've heard that Voice Vista tracks your walking speed. Is this true? I've also heard that Voice Vista accepts donation. Is this true?
Well, I'm not sure. I do think that it tracks your walking speed. Yep, I've heard it do that, and I've heard it announce it too. You're walking 3.2 miles an hour. Donations, I'm sure all of them would accept donations, but I don't know for sure on that one.
All right. And then we'll move on to Mackinson. You are unmuted. If you could also unmute yourself.
Hi everyone. My name is Florella. Itro Mackinson is because I am on my boyfriend account, so that's why it's a Mackinson. But my name is Florella.
Hi.
So my question, I'm a little bit surprised, and because I forgot his name, the host, Paul. So, I mean, anyway, the instructor, I was surprised to hear that you are blind and you are a mobility instructor. So,
Yes.
so my question is kind of mixed regarding the app and your skills. Like, I'm curious to know how, like, for example, let's say I'm also blind. Let's say I have class um like at the campus. So how do you like what do you use to kind of know the place and to kind of teach the student on how to find the classroom, or like
Hmm.
yeah, like let's put it like that. How do you do that? Do you
Well,
use the like the apps, or I mean beside your skills of course, but the area is new. Like how do you
yeah.
familiar yourself?
Yeah, so definitely I approach teaching orientation mobility different than a sighted person would, right? And
Yes, yeah, of
and
course.
lots of previewing. So I would go somewhere first and check it out and learn the route. And if I couldn't figure it out, I have access to a reader or a driver. But most of the time, I'm able to go somewhere and walk through it and figure it out, using my own skills and the things that I learned in school, and then
Yes.
I can teach that to my student. And another thing that I also focus on is learning together. So the most important things I try to teach my students are how to problem solve. So when you
Mm-hmm.
get to a new situation, how would you go about trying to figure it out yourself? Because that's the whole idea. We want people to be more independent, not dependent on someone coming and teaching you a route, right? So
Mm-hmm.
learning together. So I would ask questions like, "Hey, what do you hear around you? You know, what do you think our first step should be?" And kind of work on it together too.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so hope
All
that kind of
right.
helps a little bit.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you. And also regarding the what's the name of the app that you mentioned? Good
Voice
app?
Vista. Oh, good
No, good
maps.
app. Yes, good
Yep.
map.
Hmm.
So I found this app interesting, but it's a bit confusing for me. Like because I was listening to the video when you explain like I heard the voiceover keep saying like it's 12 feet turn west. Like how do you know like because 12 feet is kind of give you an idea, but
Hmm.
like how do you know when you reach the destination? It's kind of like confusing to me.
Yeah, well, as you moved through the route, it would continue to update you. If you touched a certain area on the screen, you could continue to get information about how far your next turn was, and then when you got to that turn, it would tell you what your next turn was. And it really takes practice. It takes practice to use these apps too. So over time, I think you get a little bit better at it. But hey, we're going to move on to our next question. Thanks so much for your question. What have we got next, Elena?
All right. We have Tim up next. You are unmuted. If you could unmute yourself.
Hey, Tim. Great name. Love it. Are you there, Tim? All right. Got to unmute yourself.
Right.
All
All right.
right.
We'll come back to
Yep.
Tim. And then Frank, you are unmuted. If you could unmute yourself.
Hey, it's Frank again.
Hi, Frank.
Um, Listen, Voice Vista is really a fantastic app because the two things that I really use it for is marking up places. I mean, I can mark the bench, the garbage can for the dog,
Yes.
all of that, and I mean, it's pretty precise. And I've marked up all of my area as time has gone by.
That's
Just
awesome.
and here's the great one with the beacon. Now you can put set a beacon on something, and within that mile, you can then have it jump into turn by turn once it comes in range of that beacon.
Oh.
Yep.
And
It's fantastic.
you don't have to set like a breadcrumb route first?
No, well, I haven't even played with the breadcrumb route because
Okay.
I'm going like, well, if you have, so I don't know how it works with that, but if you go into the beacon, you can set it, and then there's like a screen that comes out like a monitor, and it says, when do you want the turn by turn to take place within this certain range? And it could be, it could be a certain amount of feet up to close to a mile.
Cool. That sounds like something that we all need to
Ye-
check out. And
yeah,
yeah,
it's
awesome.
I mean, and I use and I know it's a little off topic there, but I just purchased the Ray-Ban Meta glasses. The app is totally accessible to voiceover, and the glasses are fantastic. It does it all. It takes pictures, photos,
Oh, the
describes.
wearables, right? That has headphones too, right?
Right, and it just went. They're on the back of the glasses, so it's
Oh,
open
slick.
ear. They just sit.
Yeah.
So I use Voice Vista with that as well.
Ah, and you're looking good too with Ray-Bans on, right?
No doubt, no doubt. No,
Yes, sir.
yeah.
Awesome. Well,
So
thank
I've
you.
heard. But
Yeah, no,
yes,
thanks very
sir,
much.
man. Okay, thank
Good,
you.
good
All
Yep.
right.
info, everybody. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Frank. One more question.
Yeah, let's do one more.
All right. We will go to Haley and you are unmuted. If you could also unmute yourself.
Hi there.
Hi,
How are
Haley.
you?
Good.
Thank you so much for doing this. I'm super excited about getting out and trying some of it. So I
Yeah.
have a question for the Voice Vista. What's the difference? Can you clarify what's the difference between a beacon and a marker?
Oh,
When each
okay.
one would be more appropriate?
So
That'd be great.
my understanding is you create a marker, and you can have lots of markers. You can mark your front door. You can mark a shop, an intersection, whatever you want, and then you have the option of turning on a beacon on markers. So in
Gotcha.
order to make a beacon make sound so that you can point your phone towards it and find
Hmm.
it and get information, you have to create a marker first.
Gotcha.
So they're two
Okay.
different things, but yeah, you have to have a marker before you can do a beacon.
All right. It's got me very excited. So even
Oh,
things like you
yeah.
say, like finding a certain bus stop, if there's no bench or anything, it's just a pole, I can use a marker to find that.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yep.
All right. I'm going to be out and about, y'all. Watch
Gonna
out.
be cool. Yes. Awesome.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Sure.
Thank you, Haley.
Yeah, so lots of questions. I love this interaction. This is great. But I wanted to get to our last app called Move It, and that's spelled Moovit. So Apple Maps and Google Maps allow you to plan public transit routes. So you can go in and you can put your destination and say you wanted to go via transit or walking or driving or however you want to, but transit, and it lists it all out for you. But Move It does the same thing, but I really feel like Move It does it in a way that's less, it's just a little easier to use. It's not designed for people who are blind or visually impaired, but it works very well with voiceover. So let's watch this brief video on Move It. This is a demonstration video of the app called Move It, which helps tremendously in planning public transit. If your city is tied in with the database that Move It use, the same database that Apple Maps and Google Maps and all of those services use for public transit, everything is in real time when you look up a route on Move It. So first thing we're going to do is plan a trip.
Search for directions button.
And we're going to do that by searching for directions. This is all just right on this home screen when you launch the app. And I'm going to double tap here. And throughout this video, I'm just going to be using standard voiceover gestures.
Search field is editing. Where do you want to go?
And
Insertion
we
point
can
of start.
type in an address, a point of interest, a park and ride, a bus station, the station ID, whatever you want to do. And I'm actually going to use one of my favorites.
Cancel.
I'm going to swipe to
Search
the right.
for favorite. Hastings Park and Ride. Hastings recent heading. Clear button. Rite Aid 9.2 miles.
And we're going
North
to do
Dakota
Rite
Street
Aid,
button.
which is quite a ways away.
From current location button.
Okay, so we're going to go from our current location
to Rite Aid button.
To Rite Aid.
Switch direction. Add an additional stop to your trip button. Depart now.
And we
Attachment
can add
PNG.
an additional
File,
stop, which
button.
is kind of cool. You can't really, a lot of other apps don't allow you to do that.
Minus 15 minutes.
So now
button.
we have to decide when we want to leave.
15 minutes button.
Which there's lots of options.
Taxi and ride hailing. Route 1. Order Uber. Total time 50 minutes.
Right now it
Pick
just
up.
gives us, the first thing it gives us is Uber. So how long it'll take an Uber to get here. And the next ones are our public transit options.
View button. Route 1. Walk 1 minutes. Then bus. SDA 173. Then walk 1 minutes. Then bus. SDA 124. Then walk 8 minutes. Total time 1 hour 1 minute. Leaves in 27 minutes. Scheduled time 3:14 p.m. Scheduled time 3:44 p.m.
So it sounds like we have to make one transfer. We have to catch the 173 and then transfer and then catch the 124. But let's see what that looks like. Let's double tap.
1 hour 1 back button. 1 hour 1 minute. $2 heading.
And I'm just swiping through here. The whole trip is 1 hour and 1 minute.
At 1 walk 1 minutes. Then bus. SDA 173.
Okay, so I have to walk 1 minute and I know right where that bus stop is for the 173. It's right near my house.
This trip earlier. Dim. Later. Start from. Leave at 2:12 p.m. Walk 400 feet. 1 minute.
Yep.
Expand.
The
button.
first
Wayfinder button. Arrive at
place I
Mission
have
at
to
Woodruff.
go.
Bus station.
Arrive at
ID.
Mission in Woodruff. That's where the bus stop is near my house.
Directions. 1 hour 1 minute. $2. D89 Fab 5B0 D400. Walk 1 minutes. This trip begins at 2:12. Earlier. Late. Start from. Leave at 2:12 p.m. Walk 400 feet. 1 minute. Expand button. Wayfinder button. Arrive at Mission at Woodruff. Bus no station image
All right,
yet.
so we're there again. I kind of lost my place on the screen here. I'm going to keep swiping.
Wait for. Live location. But
So
wait
wait
for. Bus.
for.
Line 173 of SDA towards downtown. Express. Arrives in 26 minutes.
Arrives in 26 minutes. So I need to wait for the 173 that arrives in 26 minutes. And then.
Live location. Get notified of your. Show more options. Ride to Plaza Bay 3, bus station, ID 4581. Ride
So I'm going to take that bus to Plaza Bay 3, ride 5 stops.
Stops, 15 minutes.
And it's going to take me about 15 minutes. Swipe to the right.
Expand. The fare of this. No station image. Walk 400 feet. 1 minute.
And once I'm there, I'm going to walk 400 feet.
Expand. But wayfinder. But arrive at Plaza Bay 13, bus station.
And I'm going to walk to Plaza Bay 13.
Arrive at Plaza Bay 13, bus station, ID 4578. No station image yet. 60%. Wait for bus. Line 124 of SDA towards Hastings P&R.
All right, I'm going to wait for the bus 124.
Arrives in 51 minutes.
It arrives in 51 minutes.
Scheduled time 3:35 p.m. Scheduled time 4:05 p.m.
And then it actually, this is really helpful. It actually lists the next times, the times after that this bus 124 serves this stop.
Live loc. Get notified of. Show more options.
I'm just swiping
button.
through.
Ride to Hastings Park and Ride Bay 1, bus station, ID 4432. Ride 10 stops, 24 minutes.
Okay, and I'm going to be on that for 10 stops, 24 minutes. And once the bus arrives there, then it's up to me to find my destination. But that just kind of gives you a good idea of how to plan a trip with Move It. One other thing I wanted to show you guys was Move It allows you to explore a line or a bus route. So you can look up a route and then see all the stops where that route stops. So
right back.
I'm going to hit the back button a few times.
Route 1, group, rows 1, back, button.
And there's some tabs along the bottom. We were on
tab bar, selected, directions, tab.
We were on the directions tab. We're going to go to the bottom right.
Tab bar, lines, tab.
To the lines tab. And now I'm going to swipe through
recent,
here.
Heading, clear, 6, Cheney, button. 26, Ledgerwood.
And I have some recent buses here that I was looking at, bus lines. So I'm going to double tap here to the 26.
Direction, towards downtown.
I get to choose which direction the bus is going to go.
Stop details. Full schedule. Station Nevada at Horner, Winco.
And then it tells me the very first place that it starts when it's going towards downtown is Nevada at Horner.
Station Nevada at St. Thomas More Way.
St. Thomas More Way.
Station Nevada at Lincoln. Station Lincoln at Wilding. Station Lincoln Road at
So you can swipe through all of the bus stops that a particular bus has on its entire route. So that can totally be helpful. Say, for example, you moved to a new place, you knew this bus went past your house, but you had no idea where that bus went. Yes, you could call the Spokane Transit. Well, I think I cut myself off there. So that awesome app. One other piece of this app I wanted to mention is called the Wayfinder. I don't know if you guys heard that button as I was swiping through. That was a piece that I just didn't have enough time to introduce, but that I haven't tested it out either, but I would really love to hear of anybody who has, and you guys should check it out. It looks like when you tap that, it will give you turn-by-turn directions to the bus stop near you, and it also says it will tell you when to get off the bus. Now, there's lots of other skills that you'll need to have when you take and plan a bus route, but just some really cool app, lots and lots of features. We're going to take a few more questions, but before that, I wanted to mention, we also don't have enough time to run the video for this app either, but I also wanted to mention OKO, AI Copilot for the Blind, OKO. I'll be putting that in the email that's going to go out as an App Store link. But this app is truly amazing. I'll say phenomenal. I got a little emotional when I first used it because it is amazing when you are at a street that doesn't have an audible pedestrian signal. This app with extreme accuracy will tell you when the walk and don't walk lights are on, and it will also tell you if the walk or don't walk sign is in your camera view, which helps you cross the street straight. Not every time, you have to use your skills too, but just a phenomenal app. I can't say I can't say enough about how much it has helped me and my students in intersections that parallel traffic is really hard to hear, or there is none, right? It helps in those situations too. It's called OKO, AI Copilot for the Blind. If you haven't checked it out, you should. But hey, let's take 5 or 6 minutes of questions here about Zoom. Sorry, Move It.
All right. Don, you're up first. If you could unmute yourself.
Zoom webinar.
Hey, Don.
Okay, am I unmuted now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Audio
I had a
muted.
couple of quick ones.
Audio.
Number one, when you were using these apps, you were using your cane, you were tapping around on your screen. How are you, and holding your phone? How are you doing all that simultaneously?
Well, it was
And
kind
then
of
secondly,
yeah.
you talked about the dongle that you used for the headphones. I'd like to know more about where you got that. My phone doesn't have a mini phone plug like the old ones used to have. Did you get a
Yes.
dongle that you could adapt so you could use like a mini phone plug?
Yes, exactly. So the dongle, I have an iPhone 15 and that actually has a USB-C plug now. It's no longer a lightning input. So
Right.
so the USB-C goes into the phone, and then on the other end is a port for a male port for a 3.5 old headphone jack type.
So
And yeah,
do you think they have them for the older phones too? I mean, mine,
yes,
okay, so
absolutely. I've
like an
have
iPhone store?
Yep. No, I
Okay.
would just go on Amazon and
Okay, very good.
see if you can look it up.
Okay, very good. Thanks.
And then the multitasking, I'm I'm super familiar with my neighborhood. It's a pretty quiet too. And yeah, I think I have just like a lot of practice listening to other people, keeping track of my students, listening to GPS, kind of keeping all that in my head at once. I think just a lot of practice.
I mean, how do you hold the phone, your cane, and tap simultaneously? You
Well,
obviously you've got
yeah,
to stop or
holding the phone with my left hand and using my thumb to swipe probably,
okay.
and then cane with my right hand.
All right, thanks.
All
Yeah,
right.
sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. And then we have a question from Brianna. You are unmuted. If you could also unmute yourself.
All right.
All right. Might be.
Sorry about that.
Oh, there you
Oh,
are.
there we go.
So with the Move It app, it said to walk, I think at one point 400 feet. And I've used Move It for years.
Yeah.
In the past, though, I did have an app that actually was called Hop Stop. Now, when it
Oh,
gave
I've heard of that one.
directions,
Yeah.
yeah, Hop Stop was great because it actually said walk west or walk north or walk south. Have you found an app since then? Because I've been told visually there's an arrow on the screen which does absolutely nothing for me, which I'm assuming it does nothing for you. I'm totally
Nope.
blind. Have you found an app yet that actually does have those cardinal directions? Because
Like a
telling us to
transit app.
just walk for because
Okay.
telling us to walk for a minute or 2 minutes, well, which direction?
So I would really scope out once you check out Move It again. Once you plug in a route, there was a button along that when you were reviewing the route that said Wayfinder. And when I
Okay.
tapped that, it started self-voicing and giving me instructions.
Are
So
you using the free Move It or the one that you pay for now?
the free one.
Okay.
I haven't paid for it. And by the way, to everybody, all of these apps are free that we talked about today, that you'll be getting links to also in the email. They're all free, except for Blind Square, but we didn't talk about that one. So, hey, thanks for your question.
All right. And I think that was all the hands. We do have one more question in the chat from John. Is it true that the Move It app can announce your transit stops, for example, bus stops and metro train stations?
Is it true that Move It will what?
Can announce your transit stops.
Well, it definitely tells you I would explore that a little bit more. I think this wayfinder feature might be a part of that. We just didn't get to all the features of the Move It app today. You can look at all the stops on a route. We looked at that today, and then you can get directions on how to get from point A to point B. But as far as announcing as, man, that would be awesome. Scope it out, install it, and write back. That'd be good. Questions at lhblind.org. Everybody, please, if you close this webinar window, a browser window will pop up and there'll be a survey. The survey is 100% accessible using screen readers. Very important. And when you get an email from us in about 24 hours with all these useful links and resources, there'll be a survey link in there too. Check us out at lhblind.org/jobs. You can also search the Lighthouse for the Blind Incorporated on YouTube. All of our past webinars are on there. So if you just really want to hear me keep talking, you can go there and check those out. But so glad you guys joined us today, and thanks a lot. And we'll see you again next time.